have you ever gone through something so traumatic that you felt you could never truly move on? Well, today's guest joined us to share why there's no pain too deep for God to heal and how he really can make your most difficult situations work out for your good. I know that's hard for you to believe, but it's true. But before we get to that, joining me around the table is April Simons. Is that true about God?
That is so true, and I love how you give hope to people.
Yeah.
It's great. Everybody
Well, you're the
needs
hope giver.
I try.
That's why I have you on the table. Yeah. Dorothy Newton, how are you?
I am doing great.
Bright, hot pink, folks. If you're wondering what color.
That's me.
You look so beautiful.
Thank you.
And my dear friend Kelly Lynch has a new last name.
Whiting.
Whiting, welcome.
Thank you.
Susie Murdoch, how are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. You know, I think when you talk about trauma, I don't think sometimes we really understand what happens in the brain of people that go through trauma.
Yeah.
But bringing hope today that God is bigger than anything that can go on in our brain that changes how we act.
Yeah, for sure. I know there are some of you watching that you have been through. I mean, so many people have gone through some kind of trauma. I mean, I can really look at everybody at this table and say, I know their stories, and we've all been through some stuff. We are going to go through some stuff. But when we know the Lord, I think that's the difference. And we want to get to kind of the root of what's going on with you today. And some of you will listen to hear the story and be like, okay, I can relate to that for sure. And Bob and Polly Hamper here at the table. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
So good to have you. Well, you know, we often feel like we're defined by our worst experiences. But Polly and Bob Hamper are here to share their inspiring testimony of finding love after heartbreak and abuse. Of course, your book, Cherish, Shattered Innocence, Restored Hope. I want to get to some of your story, Polly. It's as we sit here and talk to you and look at you, I always say about guests like you that I don't see any residue of what I read in your book. It's pretty wild and crazy, what you went through. But, I mean, that is the story of redemption.
Yeah.
That's what Jesus does when he comes in. So take us back and let's go through growing up. What happened?
Grew up, but at a very young age, started being sexually abused. And the earliest I have memory is 3. And
was it someone in your family?
It was somebody in my family. It was my biological father, and he has now passed away. He passed away a few years ago. But within that, the understanding of what love is got incredibly distorted, and it stopped around 8 years old. And the destruction, it wasn't just him. There were other men involved, but I do not know who they were. And through that, just being rewired in what you were talking about with the brain. The brain does all it can to sort out what it knows it's wrong. The abuse is wrong, but the survival of what we try to go through. And so try to survive. I became incredibly extroverted after the abuse. I used a lot, drank, drugs, very promiscuous at a very young age because that was my definition of love.
I think one of the important things, and Bob, I know you'll agree with this, is that so many times we'll have an issue with someone, whether it's drinking, drugs, sex, but that's almost like something that you're doing to facilitate the pain that you're feeling down below that really happened a long time ago. So it's the fruit, but it's not the root. And the root was what happened to you as a little girl.
Correct.
And until you're able to uncover that and pull that up and shine the light on it, you're never really going to heal, are you?
No, you're never really, and it has to come out. Yeah. And the thing is, you know, one of the things that I teach is I was groomed to believe that this was a part of my life. And so, you know it's wrong to your core, but I was trained that purple was yellow. And so I learned that purple was yellow. And so this is my life. This is who I am. This is my identity, all of the things. And it's not until you grow up and you start understanding, wait a second, purple isn't yellow. Like, abuse isn't okay. This is...
I didn't cause this.
I didn't cause this.
It wasn't my fault. I mean, that's one of the things I hear from, especially women, I'm sure men too, that have been molested, that somehow in their brain, they equate, well, if I hadn't have done this, it's probably because something I did, but it's not that at all.
Yeah, but when you're also told that it is your fault.
Yeah.
It's like, you're bad, you're beautiful, your body is too much, and I can't control myself.
Which is incredibly common with abuse, is
Yes.
that the abuser is trying to say, this is your problem, this isn't my problem, this is something you're carrying, you caused, and they literally put their responsibility on their victim.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I know something very traumatic happened at 14.
Yes.
So tell us about, I know that you said you were promiscuous even early, like
Very early.
preteen.
Yeah, preteen, elementary school. And then because of that promiscuity and drug use, I would sneak out all the time and hook up with guys. Hung out with people that we were all kind of the same. And so we would use together, sneak out together, party together. And one night, this guy that I kind of knew picked me up from my house after I'd snuck out. And he took me to his friend's house. And in that time, the friend gave him, I'm not sure if it was pot or LSD, and I was the payment for drugs. And I was raped that night. And from that rape, I actually got pregnant. And I would not, after I found out I was pregnant, I was terrified, of course, but I couldn't tell the truth because I did this to me. I'm the one that snuck out. I'm the one. Of course, we know all the things. It's like I had a trajectory of course, if this is going to be my path, these are the things I'm going to do, and put myself in incredibly dangerous situations. But I am 14 years old. My precious granny, I went to her house and I was like, Granny, I am pregnant. And she's like, oh, good Lord. I don't think she said good Lord, but she's like, oh my gosh. And so from there, she helped me tell my parents. And I did not keep that baby. I had an abortion at 14.
Tell us about that.
You have to shut off a part of yourself. And especially, you're looking at your life at age 14 going, what am I doing? What is this? Why am I here? And I still want to live this life because these are all my friends. This is what I know. And the abortion didn't happen. I want to say it was at a hospital. And I remember my parents taking me. And this is my mom. My biological father is very much out of the picture. My mom has remarried a guy named Gary, whom I call my second chance daddy. Even though he had his stuff and his issues, he came into the marriage like a father to me. And it was a huge blessing, but both of them were like, you can't keep this baby. And I'm like, I can't keep this baby. And so they stayed in the waiting room, and I went into the procedure room and had the abortion. And it was, the way I describe it in my book is it's like a part of you gets removed, and you lose a part of you through that process. And I'm sure multiple years of just shutting down, but that was one of the big, you just kind of cut yourself off to survive. Mm-hmm. And
was that something that you would have to deal with later? Because I want to say that for those of you watching that you may have had an abortion, we're not here to judge you.
Oh, no.
I want you to know that God loves you. In fact, there's a resource that we have here. It's called Grace After Abortion. And it's actually a workbook to kind of walk women through and help them understand that God loves you, He forgives you, and we don't know the circumstances that you were in or why you made the decision you did. Again, we don't judge that. But one thing I do want to tell you that's important to understand is that when an eternal soul is created at conception, which is what we believe, that soul is eternal. And you will see that child again. And it's hard to kind of fathom that. But you have to understand that the soul is indestructible. And so I think that's important for women to understand. So we don't judge you. We love you. We're telling Polly's story. And it was something later you would have to deal with. What about the fact that you know that soul continues on?
I love that. I don't think I've ever heard that described that way.
Yeah.
And that is, I know, I believe God gave me a vision that it was a little boy.
That happens a lot. By the way, that happens a lot with women that I've interviewed over the last 30 years. They will say, in prayer, God showed me whether it's a boy or girl, they actually give it a name. And it's amazing what can happen in the healing that can take place, because the enemy wants to keep you down based on that decision. Is that true?
Yes. And that's one of the things I want to say is, if you've had an abortion, like, the shame can be crushing.
Yeah.
And God doesn't speak through shame. God speaks through love, and he will meet you in your heart exactly where you are to speak to that shame. And so I think it's so important to know that. And I ended up, it's interesting because I'm like, God, are you just funny? Because I ended up having twins at 23. And I'm like, is this, are we, now they're identical girls. And and God gave me a vision of the boy, but I'm like, that's interesting. It's just like, I'll have to have a talk with him when I get to heaven about that one.
So let's continue on. So during all of this, you did not know the Lord.
No.
In a personal way.
Very atheist.
Yeah. What I also want to say, Polly, I think this is important, because so many times people think, I've been through all this stuff. There's no way God could forgive me. No way God could love me. When in fact, you have to understand that some of those of you that are watching right now, God has a continued great plan for your life, and you've been stuck, and you have to understand the enemy could see the potential that you had to make a difference in this world, and you haven't fulfilled that yet. And I want to say it's never too late to begin that. Is that true, April?
Oh, so true. And sometimes
I knew you'd have a word over there.
Well, I was just thinking, sometimes, if I can get this right, we stay mentally and emotionally somewhere we left physically a long time ago. And we need to get to the place we are now. If God has set us free, and he will set us free, you're proof of it, we can't stay buried in the past and the shame. We have to move forward because God wants us to.
Right. But you can understand that the enemy would have loved to destroy your life, because now, and we're going to get to that, what you're doing now, you're helping women and young ladies come out of some of the very things that you went through, that you can understand in a way that I could never understand. So God will take your pain and use it for purpose, and that's what he's done for you. So, okay, so you continue on, you go to college, then another bad decision.
Yes, a very unfortunate decision. But one of the things about trauma is something that I teach a lot with the demographics that I get to work with, is we compartmentalize, and we have a choice. We're going to naturally compartmentalize to survive. Then there's the healthy compartmentalization, where we actually get to choose. And when I went through all of this stuff, I was still very wild in high school, but I was also on the tennis team, so I could compartmentalize my life of like, this is my wild and crazy sneak out life. This is I'm on the tennis team, and
I'm good.
I'm good, and I was still struggling in school, horrible grades, all that, and somehow I graduated high school and very low GPA. And there are some colleges in Texas that will take very low GPAs and your checks. And so I went to one of those in East Texas, Stephen F. Austin. And I'm not knocking Stephen F. Austin, by the way, they're a great school. But I went there and I compartmentalized my life. Okay, I'm going to leave all of my high school, horrible life, crazy stuff in my past, compartmentalize it,
pack it up, put it in the back,
pack it up, put it in the storage unit,
talk about it,
lock it up with all my other boxes, and go to college and be this great student. I was art major, film minor. I wanted to be an animator. I'm an abstract artist, so I love painting, and I go there and I can do it for a little while, but it's amazing what shame and pain will do when you pack it up. And so went there, and I was approached by a guy that had graduated from the same high school a year earlier. And he said, hey, I am working at this club. I'm DJing at this club. Would you be interested in working at it? And I'm like, And the club happened to be a strip club. And in my mind, it was, this is my chance to control men. And I can say yes or I can say no, and I'm going to get paid for it. And the payment was hell. Like there is the industry, the sex industry is all about shredding souls. And I was in that for about 2 years.
Say what you said yesterday about the life expectancy.
Oh, in the industry, the life expectancy of somebody who's either in porn, stripping, being prostituted, because they're not prostitutes, they're being prostituted. It's a very clear distinction.
It's not their identity.
It's not their identity. They're being exploited, is 7 years. And they either die from suicide, they die from drug overdose, they just die.
How many years were you in it before you actually came out?
2 years.
And you wanted to die after 2 years.
I wanted to die after 2 years. However, there are ways that I look at it in a different light, as I was in it my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the sex industry since the time I could remember being abused because I was exploited.
Yeah.
And so from 3 to, 18, 19, 20 years old, I was in it, but I chose to step into the strip club. But the grooming that had happened through the whole process.
Right. So you kind of, she talks a lot about even that first time that she went into the strip club, went out on the stage, talk about it was empowering for a moment.
Yes.
But after the 2 years, you kind of hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
And you decided you might what?
Kill myself. Yeah. I had a gun in my lap and I was done. It was... I didn't have friends. I was depressed. I was exploiting myself, and and then all the depression from the abuse. It was I want to be done. I can't do this anymore.
So tell us about why you didn't pull the trigger that day.
I was sitting in that parking lot with the gun in my hand or gun in my lap, going, "I am going to kill myself." And this small voice, now I know it was God. I didn't know then, was not now, not now. And I called my counselor who I had been working with at school, and she checked me into a home, and I was there for several weeks and had lots of healing. Again, no God, still separate from that. But it started my journey,
Started your
real journey. Yeah.
Okay, so let's let God enter in here because he needs to come into this
Yes,
picture.
he needs to come. He was there, but
He was there, but
yeah.
I mean, were you recognized and
Yeah.
start reaching out to him?
So I didn't start recognizing it until I was married at 23 because I got pregnant, found out I was having twins at 5 months. I was 5 months pregnant, found out I was having twins.
Goodness.
And then they were born 2 months later. They were born at 27 weeks. And within that marriage, my then husband was a Baptist, but his mom was also Southern Baptist. And she is a saint. She loved me. She knew I had a story. She didn't know my whole story. She knew I had a hard life, but she didn't know about, we don't talk about being strippers, especially in the church world, but she just loved me. And then also through the miracles of my daughters, they actually, they survived. The doctor said if they live, they're going to be severely mentally, physically challenged because of the brain hemorrhage.
They had there was no way they should have recovered to be normal, but they did.
They did.
Of course, she's praying.
She's praying.
You got
a lot
grandma
of people are praying.
A lot of people are praying.
Yes.
You're still an atheist.
I'm still an atheist.
But even you watching that, you knew it was almost like supernatural because your doctor even said, I don't believe in God, but I can't explain this.
Exactly. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in miracles, but I cannot explain your children.
Right. Okay, so when did you actually say the whole Jesus thing, I want you, I need you, come in?
October of 99. Girls were 3 years old. Because I had twins, thought it'd be really cute to do Noah's Ark as their little theme. And sitting in a church in Dallas, all the sunlight was in, and the pastor is preaching about Noah's Ark, and God just showed up. And that was the moment.
And what did you say to him?
Just said, yes, Lord. I didn't say
That's all
a
you have to
magical
do.
prayer.
I mean, you just say, yes, Lord. That's what my grandpa did. He just said, God, if you're there.
Yeah.
That was the moment you said yes.
Yes.
That was your surrender moment.
Yeah.
Now, it was a process to get to where she is today.
Yes.
Of course, you would end up becoming life coach, counselor, and helping women out of this industry, et cetera. There's a lot more to the story.
Yes.
So, Bob, as you listen to all of this and Polly's story, you probably had no idea that she would come into your life at some point, right?
Absolutely.
And you're thinking...
Obviously, there's some point I didn't know that, yeah.
But tell us about when she did and what you guys are doing right now.
well, we had met years and years ago because we run in the same circles, but we didn't know that 5 years or just a couple years after that, that we would meet in very different circumstances because we'd both gone through some pretty devastating things. And when we met at that point, having gone through some hard things and discovering that, I'd also gone through divorce, we began the journey of kind of getting to know each other in a different way. And when we met the first time, we had both been married to somebody else, and so it's kind of like anyone that you meet, you just meet somebody, don't think anything of it except, like meeting anyone else.
Right.
And so when the time came that we met and saw each other again and kind of realized we were both not married, there's kind of this little voice that goes, oh, really? And, but really it just started as conversation. And recognizing that, I think we also had both recognized that we're still kind of running in the same circles, but even more so in that we're both kind of running in the circles of helping people find healing.
Yeah.
And really looking for, so is that something we would ever do together? Even thinking about like, things that weren't necessarily relationship things. It was still like, well, you do what I do what you do. But that really opened the door to the pursuit of the relationship. And so once we really stepped into kind of pursuing each other more on a personal basis, the conversation was also, so what does it look like to do what we do together? What does it look like to do that? And some of that is, what does it look like to do what we do together? Some of it looks like, what do we do together? We, early on, we did a video class called How Do You Handle Trauma in Relationships? And we taught about 3 or 4 one-hour sessions on if you've both got trauma, because she's got early life trauma, I've got late life trauma, but if you've both got trauma, how do you handle that in relationship? Or even if one person doesn't. So we taught this lovely little class on.
We were like, we're going to be so helpful. It's going to be so great.
It's all about responding to each other's triggers and that kind of stuff. And then it started to really get triggered.
Yeah.
And I think one of the important things that we would say is that, in healing from trauma, you talked about the nervous system. The nervous system and the brain really kind of gets programmed and imprinted by trauma at any stage. We say that trauma is an injury to the nervous system. And a lot of times if the injury is relational, it takes relationship to heal the injury. If the injury is personal, it takes some personal work here to heal the injury.
Yeah.
But I think we had taught that little class and thought, look how skilled we are at handling this in communication. And then all of a sudden we're sitting across from each other and both of us get activated in our triggers. And it's like, I don't care what we taught, what did you do with this?
Yeah.
And honestly, that's probably been the most important thing for both of us in our healing journey. And I think Polly would say, don't let me put words in your mouth, but Polly would say, probably the finishing touch on her trauma journey has been the relational piece. I've heard her say that publicly, so that's why I know I'm not putting words in
you
her
are
mouth.
not. That's correct.
Because, you deal with the, what does it mean about myself? Am I bad? Am I dirty? You deal with it, what does it mean about the world out there? Is it safe? But at some point you deal with, what does it mean about relationship and intimacy and connection and sexuality? There's only one context that's appropriate.
Yeah.
And in that context, then, you start to explore kind of those deeper places where trauma took place. That's really like God gets access to people in those places of intimacy. And so
how long did you think it took, Polly? I mean, here now, y'all been married about 7 years, and you've been working actively since that moment with the Noah's Ark that God showed up to get better, and now take your pain that has been healed and help other people. How long was that process? Because for people watching, sometimes the church will say, just come down and we'll pray for you. Everything will be okay. And sometimes there's a lot more stuff we have to deal with.
Yes, whole life. And I would also say, and it's in sections. You think you arrive and it's like, oh yeah, I'm doing great. And then, some stuff happens and your brainstem gets triggered, or you have a memory and it's like, okay, I'm going to go back in and start doing some more counseling on that. And it's, how they use the analogy of an onion and all the layers. Yeah. And it's very much that. And I think it's really sweet of the Lord who says, I'm going to give you what you can handle right now. Yeah. I'm not going to give you something that will shred you. And it doesn't mean you won't feel shredded and you won't feel the pain, but I am there with you. You are not alone.
That's good.
So it has really been, up until the last 3 years, kind of this slow process with big kind of chunks along the way of like really working hard on this, really working hard on this. And then it became very much we were working on our relationship, because also, what is my belief of men and the world around? And even though I know he's a good guy, he's still male.
Yeah.
And so the internal belief systems of like, okay, I get to heal my nervous system. I get to heal my thoughts and the lies, and God gets to come in and speak to me and show me all of the things. And then relationally, we get to have these conversations. And it was probably up until about 3 years ago where he did a lot of work on his own. I've done a lot of work on my own. We've done work together.
Yeah. Well, and you're a miracle as you sit here. I hear your story. Think about all the trauma. I don't think any of us have been through what Polly talks about today. Maybe you're there today. I mean, maybe you just, you're kind of searching, you're looking and wondering, and that's a very traumatic story. But, if God can do that for Polly, just think about what he can do for you. We are out of time. Again, no matter what kind of pain you're carrying today, I want you to remember that you can give all of that to Jesus. Sounds so cliche, but yet it's so true. The Bible talks about casting all of your care upon him because he cares for you. And I mentioned the story about my grandfather because, he was a great influence in my life. And his mother died giving birth to him. His dad committed suicide, and he did not have a good life. And he certainly didn't go to church or anything about God. But at 19, he prayed that prayer, and he said, God, if you're there, I need you. And God showed up, changed the trajectory of our family, married my grandmother, had 7 kids. My dad was his only son. He had 6 girls and a boy. And wow, it's been an amazing change of what God had for him and for his children, for his grandchildren. He wants to do that for you. And the healing that you need today, it's available. And all you need to do is ask. If you're watching today and you haven't invited Jesus in, that's the most important call that you can make, is just invite him in. Say, Jesus, I need you. And I always say, you tried everything else. Why not try this? Open up your heart. Allow him to do something that only he can do. We'd love to pray with you. We have a prayer line number on the screen. Prayer partners are standing by to pray with you. And it's our honor, it's our privilege to pray with you today. Well, I want to thank Bob and Polly again for joining us today. Be sure to pick up a copy of Polly's book. She goes into a lot more detail. It's called Cherished. For more, you can visit them online at tdacad.com. As always, be sure to follow us on all social media platforms. You can leave us a comment to let us know how Table Talk is touching your life. We love hearing from you. You want to be sure to subscribe to the Joni Table Talk podcast. It's available right now across all the top podcast apps. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Polly. Thank you for sharing your heart and your life. Thank you, ladies. We love you. And I just pray you've been encouraged today, and just know that, hey, God's not through with you. He loves you. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye for today.
Hi, Grandma. I played baseball today.
Oh, that's great.
What position did you play?
First base.
That's what Grandpa used to play. When our hearing wouldn't allow us to use a regular phone, it made us feel isolated.
It became difficult to communicate with our friends and family.
Clear Captions was an easy solution for us.
Clear Captions provides captions on a phone like captioning on your TV, so you can see what the caller is saying live as they say it,
making it easy to understand and respond immediately.
There is no insurance or Medicare required. Clear Caption service is provided at no cost to you through a federally funded program. We deliver, install, and train you on how to use your phone, all at no cost to you.
Give your loved ones the independence and connection they deserve.
Call now to see if you qualify to get a Clear Captions phone at no cost to you.
Call 1-800-535-2942. That's 1-800-535-2942.
Do you have a box of videotapes, film reels, or photos that are degrading?
Legacy Box professionally converts them to DVDs, thumb drive, or the cloud.
Legacy Box is simple and safe, with over 1 million satisfied customers.
Visit legacybox.com.
The bathroom of your dreams is only a phone call away with BCI Bath & Shower. We can make your ordinary bath and shower extraordinary. This is not a cookie-cutter design. This is a complete custom build that will fit your every need, and discounts for seniors and military.
know that addiction is a widespread issue and a growing problem that affects people of all ages and from every walk of life. But why does addiction take root, pushing individuals, even those deeply committed to their faith, into behaviors they never thought possible? Well, today's guest shares insights from his book, Recovery for Everyone, to help us answer that question and deal with the subject of addiction. So you want to stay right there. If you're dealing with one or a family member, you want to be sure and hear this program today. Before we get to that, joining me around the table is April Simons. How are you?
I'm doing great. And we kind of know this guest.
We do. A lot of times, though, April, have you found that, people in the church try to deal with, say, alcohol use or drug use or a sex addict, or, will deal with them without understanding the root cause?
Yeah, they do. And then a lot of them are embarrassed to say anything, especially in the church. So I'm so glad we're doing this, because you know what? The bottom line, everybody's got a little dysfunction in them.
Yeah.
We just put the fun in dysfunction, right?
That's right.
But we deal with it. The important thing to deal with it.
And there are people that Jesus wants to set free.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's no shame in it.
That's right. Anna Kendall, I'm sure you have probably dealt with this subject a lot in your years of counseling.
Absolutely. And you know what, Joni? We are all in a state of recovery. We're all recovering from the sin nature. So recovery for everyone is a great title. Whether it's addictions or just sin. We all need to recover.
We do.
Right.
Yes.
That's right.
Dorothy Newton, how are you?
I absolutely love, every time I come to the table, I want to be open to learn. At first, when I was reading the notes, I was like, well, I don't have that.
Yeah.
But oh my goodness.
But you know somebody who does.
I know somebody who does, but I learned a lot about myself I had not known before. So I am excited, and I'm super excited, because I just would have never thought. So.
All right. Cindy Johnson, how are you?
Doing great. Ready to.
It's an important subject that people struggle with in the church, so we don't talk about.
I agree, and I think it's so good that it's being brought to light, that people don't feel ashamed, that they just bring it to the light, and you can receive the healing you need.
That's right. Cindy Murdoch.
Hey.
How are you doing, bestie?
I'm good, thank you. And it's why Jesus did what he did. It's why he came. It's why he bled and died and rose again.
Yeah.
So that he took all the shame and bore our sins.
Because
so that
all
we
have
could
sinned and come
recover.
short of the glory of God, for sure. Well, he's an author, counselor, and my amazing husband. And today he's here to talk about understanding addiction and how every person can find freedom and recovery. Please welcome Dr. Doug Weiss.
Hey.
Yes,
Here he comes. I told you he'd run in.
In the house.
So we were all
Hi, y'all.
pontificating around the table. Will he walk in or will he run in? And I said,
Run.
And I said, if he walks in, I'll fall out of the chair. Because he runs everywhere, right? Because he is always busy. Okay.
He's on the move.
Yeah, welcome to the table.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be here with you, Joni Lamb.
It is an honor to have you. Well, I'll just tell a little bit about how many people call and are dealing with addictions. And you said, you know what? I would just like to be a blessing, and to you and to your audience. And you had done a workbook, Recovery for Everyone, and specifically about addictions that people struggle with and how to get through it. And then you've got the book, Recovery for Everyone. And so you've helped a lot of people in your many years of counseling. And so go ahead and get ready. You're going to get really excited, because we're going to offer this as a free download, which this was normally cost,
about $50 or more, $50 to $60.
$50 or $60.
But we want people free from addictions, because when they're free, they change the world. When they're free, they love their families. When they're free, they do more mature things.
Yeah.
And we need more mature adults in all of our cultures around the world.
I want to say thank you for making this available, because you certainly didn't have to do that. Let's talk about your story. You've told it before, but I want you to just talk slowly, because some of us are from the South.
We hear slow.
You happen to be a Yankee from Pennsylvania. So talk slowly, and then start at the beginning, just growing up, the home you grew up, what happened, and we're just going to get to see God's redemptive power in his life, just like he wants to do in your life today. So tell us your story, babe.
Well, my story starts with conception. I was conceived in adultery. That ended that marriage. My mom found a guy in a bar and married him. He was an alcoholic, so 2.5 children later, they get divorced. I was put in foster homes and then taken out of foster homes with my mom, who was living with someone else. So my mom...
This is not a fairy tale beginning here.
It is for Jesus.
It is for Jesus. That's
he
right.
He loves to paint with colors.
That's right. So how old were you when you went into foster care?
About 4.
Wow.
And then got out maybe 1.5 years later or so.
Because your mother actually didn't want you to go into foster care, but she couldn't afford.
She was pregnant. She had 3 kids.
Yeah.
And she had an 8th grade education. I don't fault my mom for making that decision because there was no other decision to make. She didn't have any help.
It was survival.
It was survival for everybody. Okay, and probably best for us, really. And so then after that came out, she was living with someone. They eventually got married. My mom did introduce me to the only book in our house that I've ever seen. She gave me a sex book when I was early, maybe like 12 or so. Like, you should understand this. Well, the pictures were helpful, and I became fully sexually addicted. And then that got into pornography. I was sexually abused at age 14. A guy picked me up on a car and sexually abused me, got me drunk, sexually abused me. So then I got involved into sexuality. So a lot of women in my life, a lot of crazy drinking, alcohol, drugs, all that.
So what about through like middle school and high school? Were you a good student?
I was good. I mean, I was a good student until the alcohol and drugs came. I mean, my last year of senior high school, the principal called me in because I skipped about a month of school straight. He said, if you miss one more day, I'm not going to graduate you. And I was able to recover. But now I've got a PhD. So I went, I hated school. Yeah. But then, so at 19, I got saved when I was 12. My mom sent me to Salvation Army camp. But in 19, I knew my life was going really bad. It was just woman after woman, drugs after drugs. And I was like, okay, I can see pretty clearly into the future what this is going to look like.
So at 19, there was alcohol.
Alcohol, drugs, and women.
Drugs and women.
Right.
Pornography.
And pornography.
Yeah.
And so I went outside to this place, and I knew that Jesus was who he was. I said, Jesus, I'll make you a deal. I will give you my life for 30 days straight, 100%, do everything you tell me to do. And if my life is not better in 30 days, I will kill myself then, because what I'm about to leave on the earth is going to be really bad. And 30 years later, I was in Bible school. I mean, he radically saved me. And I was able to read his word and get it into my heart.
So really. That's the only prayer you prayed?
That's it. It's not
Jesus,
that hard.
If you're there, like...
Yeah, this is the deal. I'll give you my life, right? Yeah. Take control of my life, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to take orders from now on instead of giving them.
Yeah.
And so taking orders is a better place to live still today, you know, and I'm 60-something now. And so it's still a better place to live to take orders than to give them.
Yeah.
Especially to your own heart. And so then he put me in Bible school.
What Bible school?
United Wesleyan College in Allentown, Pennsylvania. But alcohol and drugs left instantly. Sex addiction stayed. Because sex addiction was rooted in my abuse and my neglect. And so,
in your trauma.
Right. And so then being a sex addict in Bible school is a little confusing. Okay. Sure. As you can imagine, you're crying out to God, you know, please forgive me, help me, what's the problem? And that went on for 4 years. In seminary, I started to get free because I got accountability with my roommate. And I would tell him if I had an issue, and I started to heal, because Scripture, it talks about if you confess your faults one to another, that's what recovery for everyone's about. Tell somebody else, get some help. Okay, and once I start getting help with a real person, I started to heal.
So how did the Lord, like, how long did it go on when you were in seminary, I guess, when this happened?
Yes.
So you're in seminary and you're still addicted to pornography, but you're hiding that.
The pornography kind of left later in the Bible school because it didn't have access, okay? Because this is before cell phones, thank God, you know, which is its own addiction.
Yeah.
Right now, cell phones by themselves is probably the biggest addiction in the church.
Yeah.
Technology, because of the social media and all the stuff that, I mean, people in the church.
You're going to have to do another whole book on that.
I mean, seriously. No, this will work.
Yeah.
If you got a phone addiction, recovery for everyone will work, because it doesn't matter what your addiction is. Food, come on, church. Alcohol, sex,
drugs,
pornography. 50% of the men in the church, I'm talking about the world, the church, are addicted to pornography. We are an addicted community. Western culture is an addicted community because we don't know how to feel and we don't know how to trust and ask people for help. So anyway, God sent me there, seminary, start getting free, got my degrees.
Wait, tell that more of that part though. So you're in seminary. How did you actually get free?
Well, I told my roommate, I said.
But why your roommate?
Because that's what God told me to do.
Okay.
I wasn't excited about the idea. But after I said, now.
But he was trustworthy.
I knew the voice of God, and I'm like, God, come on, this is serious. You want me to tell you want me to tell the guy who's sleeping 3.5 feet away from me?
Yeah.
Why couldn't you pick someone who lived down the hall?
Right. But obviously you trusted him.
I trusted him.
It's important who you tell.
And God trusted him.
Yeah.
And he was really kind to me about all that. But I started to get free once I started being honest. And so seminary would happen, and then I wrote my first book. We've been on Oprah, Dr. Phil, Good Morning America, 2020, all these shows, many books helping people to get free. We started a counseling center which people fly from all over the country and world to get free from sexual addiction, intimacy, anorexia, and the partner betrayal trauma that happens with all that stuff. So God has done a lot with the mess. He makes a message. Okay, with the trauma, he gives you medicine. And what I've done is put that medicine in form. And recovery for anyone is for any addiction. Okay, they can download this on their phone right now. They can download it on their computer right now, and they can understand how they got this way, because there's different reasons why people become addicted, and what they need to do to start healing.
Where's the God factor in all of this?
Well, all 12-step recovery programs, they came out of the church, okay? Because in step 3, you turn your life over to the care of God. But first, step 1 and 2 is, I'm powerless. I can't do this. I can't stop. I don't know what's going on. And step 2 is coming to the idea that there's something bigger than you. Step 3 is giving him his dignity and his name. And so everyone can be on a spiritual journey, but this will help them, even if they don't even know God, it'll help them start healing from the addiction, which is sometimes a replacement for God.
So going back to your seminary days, when the Lord said, okay, I need you to shine the light on what's going on with you and tell your roommate, and that the process of healing started for you. So that's one of the, I think, important parts here, is that secret is not working for you. And if you had never told anyone about what was going on, do you think you'd be free today?
No, I wouldn't have been. I would have been religious at best, or I would have abandoned my faith by this point in my life.
And this is another whole program, but even people in ministry who have those hurts and those secrets.
I've worked with hundreds of those people.
Then much later, they have these crazy things that happen because they didn't deal with the trauma from way back then.
Right, and you don't have to be a famous pastor to know that you got to deal with it. I mean, if you got a secret, if you have a secret, you have to deal with it, because God's not into that, and you're not doing well with it. And you can reach out to Joni, and you can call, you can email, and let us help you in that process, because that's what we're here to do, is to help.
Well, and that's what came from your heart, is that you just said, Joni, I have a lot of material, but I want to bless your audience with this, because I want to see people get healed. I'm just going to go around the table. April, I know you've looked at the stuff, and just what question do you have?
Well, I think I know what you're going to say, but I heard a quote that said, heal because your children deserve the healed version of you. And, we kind of repeat what we don't delete or what we don't take care of. So, and I say this a lot, but if you didn't come from a healthy family, you can change it. And how important is that, the parent, maybe they came from abuse, they can change everything right now.
Well, once you stop addictions, you grow in 3 major areas: spiritually, emotionally, and morally. So your children are dealing with an adolescent parent if you have an addiction, even if it's a cell phone addiction. Okay? And now when you stop your addiction, you mature. The more mature you are, the more mature your children can know they can become.
Right. And you're setting a new pattern.
Absolutely. You can break that, and you can, like my children haven't known their dad as an addict one day of their life.
Right.
Yep. I always talk about my grandfather, that he changed the trajectory of our family when he accepted Jesus at 19, just like you. And he was a mess. That's what God takes, those messes, and just like you said, he makes great messages out of that, Anna.
You talk about sharing your problem, your addiction with someone. And of course, we know that you mean someone that you can trust, someone that God tells you to. Because isn't it true that the more secrets we have, the more unhealthy we are? And it takes a lot of energy to keep secrets.
Yeah, your secrets are your secrets, and most secrets can be written down on a little card, an index card. I would say, you know what they are, call the number on the screen, and tell that person on the other side. You'll never meet them.
That's good.
And you will feel better.
That's right.
And then you can actually tell a real person easier later. But get on the phone and take that step. It really does change your life.
And this is shining the light on it. The devil loves to keep things in darkness, to keep all of the secrets and the sins and the addictions hidden. But when you shine the light on it,
Well, I'm a psychologist. Your mental health, is dependent on you not having secrets.
Amen.
Okay.
Yes, so good. You know, as you all were talking, I remembered a story that someone told me of a secret addiction that they were struggling with, and they went to someone in the church, thought they could trust, and that person ended up trying to take advantage of them by knowing the secret. And I just felt like there are people watching that you've been hurt in some kind of situation like that, where you tried to come clean and then it was used against you. And I feel like the Lord is saying you didn't pick the right person, that you still need healing, and you haven't gotten that. How important is it to pick the right person to talk to about this?
Well, you're going to pick the most mature person you know, or go pay somebody. Because legally they can't tell anybody. Okay, so it's worth whatever the $50 you're going to spend or $100 you're going to spend. Christian counselor. And just say, here's my secret. And let it out, and then deal with whatever it is, the repercussions of that for your own healing. Okay, even if they just tell you what to read or where to go and what to do. And we deal with some of that in recovery for everyone, because people need to know what to do with the abuses, with the neglects, and they can.
That's good. Dorothy?
So throughout my life, after reading your material, I can honestly say that I saw pride. I saw that I was protecting my pride, and that's a sin. You know, but I didn't, it was an aha moment, because I can look throughout my life and I can see where I am the same way. You know, I am literally the same way, and it is a sin.
But Dorothy, you're talking about something so deep. When you have brokenness in your life, you mistrust.
That's true.
And it's a person that hurts you that caused that mistrust. Now, what God will do is send another person you can trust to heal that. And when you do that, then you start maturing really rapidly, because trust is the foundation of us developing. And so that's a big thing. It was bigger than what you thought. It's a big thing.
Now you're trusting. Yes. Okay, Cindy Johnston.
What would you say to a person who has a loved one that's going through addiction? What would you say to them to be of help to them?
Well, that's a powerful question, Cindy, because especially if you're married, you're a wife of a man who's got addictions, especially if it's pornography or alcohol, you have nothing to do with that. First of all, you have nothing to do with their addiction. Or maybe you're a man, you're married to some woman who's got a big food or social media thing or phone thing. You had nothing to do with that. There's something driving them. Don't blame yourself. And maybe you start getting educated on that addiction, and also help for the spouse of that addiction. There's lots of support groups that, you know, even in my office, we got like 50 phone groups for people, because the spouse needs some assistance sometimes, and maybe to learn how to have boundaries without being too rigid, and start moving it in a different direction, and stop tolerating immature behavior, and stop blaming yourself for it, because they made a choice to be an addict. That's them.
Why do people blame, like, a loved one? Why would a spouse take
Well, because the addict's going to
ownership?
tell you you're the problem, because they have no insight into their own issues. So if I'm not the problem, somebody's got to be. So I'm going to volunteer you.
Well, what about the parent, like, who is trying to deal with the situation with someone they know or a family member? What would you say to them as far as saying the right thing or doing the right thing in that situation?
Well, there's no magic pill. There's nothing you're going to magically say or do to make them better. You're not that powerful. Pray, but then love them and say, you know what? You and I both know what's going on. You're hurting. I want you to know the next time you're hurting, you can call me. I'll be there for you. I'll pray with you. I'll talk to you. I'm not going to judge you, buddy. I'm not going to judge you. I'm going to put my arm around you, and I'm going to sit with you. And you just got to love people, you know, because they feel unlovable. They have a secret. Addicts have a secret. If you really knew me, you wouldn't or couldn't love me.
That's true.
Because I know me, and I don't love me. And sometimes that love is what pierces it, you know. Now, it's not a cure, okay, because of free will. They can still go out and do dumb things, okay. A mom's perfect love will never make a prodigal come home. A wife's perfect love for her husband will not make him sane.
Well, yeah, and I think, too, that we want to shoulder things or carry burdens that God never intended for us to carry when it relates to someone we know that's going through something.
If you didn't decide it, you're not responsible for it.
Right.
Oh, that's good.
Right?
Yeah. Cindy?
Good, yeah. I know that you're being a tremendous blessing to the audience to make the download possible for your workbook, Recovery for Everyone.
It's like 100 exercises. It's like a year of therapy.
That's what I wanted to ask you. If you could, I think, because it might really encourage people to go in and download it, whether it's for themselves or a loved one. Tell us about the workbook and maybe some of the exercises, because I've heard in recovery a lot of times just writing things down can bring such a healing. And
there's room to write in here, everything. Let me just read through some of them. You touch on it. Well, because there's so many, but daily time for recovery, cleaning house, early prayer, the reading recovery material, call someone, going to support groups, evening prayer. These are all the
the 5 commandments: pray, read, call, meeting, pray. This book is like therapy in a box, okay? This was written from someone who had, I think it was about 20 years of experience when I wrote this book. And this is therapy in a box. I'm giving you thousands of dollars. If you came to my office and saw me personally, that would cost you a lot, right? And most therapists cost money. This is free because it gives you step by step what you need to do with to heal immediately and then deal with the issues, okay? And if they do that, I mean, thousands of people have gotten free using this material or similar material to it that I've written. And so it really is therapy in a box.
What is cleaning house? I know she read
Cleaning
off
house?
cleaning house. What is that?
Well, it depends what you're addicted to.
Oh, okay.
If it's alcohol,
It's not
you get
really
rid of
just
alcohol.
cleaning house, it's cleaning house.
If it's your social media, you take yourself off. If it's food, you get accountable, right? And depending on what the addiction is, that's how you clean house. Like I know a lady, she was a prostitute. She's a sex addict. She came and saw me. I said, well, you got to clean house. She knew what I meant because they had their own little uniforms. She brought me like 2 bags of garbage bags full of clothes that she acted out in and said, here, I'm cleaning my house. You get rid of them. I don't know what to do with them.
Wow.
So, and for some people, it's they got to get rid of what they got to get rid of because you can't mature while you're still leaning on the crutch.
That's true.
Right? It says trust in the Lord with all thy heart, not trust in the stuff. Whatever the stuff is.
Right. So can addiction be a storm that people are going through right now?
They can, and your book is very helpful for people going through a storm. I love your book, Joni, not just because you're my wife, but I've read it several times and I've seen the emails.
You encouraged me to write it.
Yes, I did, because you have a story, and addictions can be a storm, but it's a storm of choice.
Right.
There are storms that happen to you that you have nothing to do with. But this storm is a storm of choice, which means it's your choice when the storm ends. It's your choice when the wind stops blowing. It's your choice when something new grows into your life and you become a solution instead of the problem in your family.
That's good. We'll stay right there. We'll be right back after this.
Imagine facing a storm so vast, it threatens to engulf everything you've built. Would you falter, or would you find strength you never knew you had?
When a hurricane is tearing through your life, Jesus is the peace that stills the waters of your soul.
This is a tale of navigating life's fiercest tempests and discovering that sometimes the most profound truths are born in the heart of the storm. Get your copy now at daystar.com/shop.
Well, Dr. Doug Weiss is here to discuss his book, A Recovery for Everyone, and we have made this material available to you because we want to see you healed, and you really want to see people healed, and there are a lot of hurting people out there right now.
This is a free download, so we're not making anything on this.
No.
This is us saying, I love you. And if you're here, there's no shame. There's no judgment about what you chose. There's just a helping hand to help you make better choices so that you can walk out, have a clear conscience, know that you're loved, know that you're worthy, make good relationship choices, be the person you were created to be instead of the person you're medicating. You will be amazed at the difference because most addicts are actually leaders. And you can't stop them once they get free. So you can double, triple, quadruple your income. So many people I work with have done that. You can write books. You can change people's lives. You can take your mess and make a message. You are a solution and not a problem. That's some of the gifts that you get as you get recovered and sober and free.
You have to understand that there's a battle going on, good against evil, and the enemy of our soul would like to destroy you. But God's like, I have such great purpose for you that you've never even walked out. And I want to do that in your life. And the most important choice we can make.
The most important choice I made was when I said, Jesus, here's my life. Now, since then, God has done so many radical things. And you can have that right now. It's not hard. Just do what I did. Say this prayer after me from your heart. Say, Jesus, forgive me.
Forgive me.
I want you to lead my little ship.
I want you to lead my little ship.
Fill me up.
Fill me up.
I will follow.
I will follow.
In Jesus' name.
In Jesus'
And if you said that, are you giving away the Gospel of John?
We are.
Okay, you can get the Gospel of John, get started on that, and a little booklet. Because if you made that prayer, call the number on your screen because we want to give stuff to you. We want you to have an incredibly blessed life.
How important is it for those of you that are watching today to understand that God's speaking to you? And there's just been like a little crack in the window of your heart. And the Lord's saying, come home. Hey, you've been doing things on your own term. It's time to come home to me and allow me to begin to operate in your life. You can look at what he did in Doug's life. The Bible said he's no respecter of persons. He loves you so, so very much. Quickly take about 30 seconds to encourage that person that's struggling with addiction.
Well, alcohol, drugs, sex, food, all those are my addictions in the past. They can be yours in the past, but you got to take your next step. You are not your addiction. You are more powerful than that, but you're going to need to trust some other people, get out of it. I believe your best life is ahead of you, and today is the first step, so take it.
All right, and the whole group said, Amen. 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 We are out of time. I want you to remember that Romans 8:37 tells us, in all these things, we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. You or a loved one, you may be struggling with addiction, or maybe you've just hit rock bottom. Sometimes that's the best place to be, because the only place we can do is look up, and you need to look up. And I want you to understand that we serve a God who loves us and is for us. He promised that no temptation will overpower you beyond what you can bear. He provides a way out and a path for recovery so that you can find true freedom in him. And that's what we're doing today. We are allowing material into your life that can be life-changing. Not just a prayer, God help them, deliver them, but these are actual steps and exercises that have been tried through time with many, many thousands of people. And we want to be a blessing to you and see you free. If you're watching today and you've never made the decision to follow Jesus, but you prayed that prayer, we would love to send you the book of John. The Gospel of John is one of the great places to start in the Word of God. And as always, there's a number on the screen. Our prayer partners are available to pray for you today. I'd love for you to call that number. Let us know if you prayed that prayer. We'll send you that free book. I do want to thank my husband, Dr. Doug Weiss, for joining us today. Be sure to get the book and workbook, Recovery for Everyone. Hey, it is free. That's incredible. When do you get anything for free? It's available at the website. It's on your screen, or you can use the QR code. You can download it. And for more, you can visit Doug online at drdougweiss.com. As always, be sure to follow us on all social media platforms. You can leave us a comment. Let us know how Table Talk is touching your life. We always love hearing from you. And you want to make sure to subscribe to the Joni Table Talk podcast. It's available right now across all top podcast apps. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Dr. Weiss.
Thank you, Joni.
Appreciate you being here. And I'll tell you what, it's going to be a blessing to you. So glad you tuned in today. So glad you're watching. Let us know. And I tell you what, I want to hear, like, in a few months, what all God's doing in your life. It's going to be great. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye for today.